Tin Cup Kelly here, and in this series of flickers, we're going to explore many of the places to see and things to do in the magnificent Yukon Territory and along other parts of the Klondike Corridor. In this flicker, we'll visit with Alex Somerville at the historic Dawson City Museum and have a look at the amazing new exhibits and vast array of artifacts here. It's a great place to learn about Dawson City's varied history. From the Han culture to the post-gold rush years, there's lots to discover at this fine museum. Tin Cup Kelly here, Alex. Good to meet you. Now, tell us about yourself, and for goodness sake, tell us about this just wonderful building here.
Sure. My name's Alex Somerville. I live here in Dawson City in the Yukon, and I work at the Dawson City Museum, which is housed here in the building that was built in 1901. It used to be the Territorial Administration Building.
The 2.5-story building was part of Canada's important public works program at the turn of the 20th century and represented an important linkage to Southern Canadian society. I remember my first time I came here, might have been '01, and I went in to settle a claim having to do with one of my mining claims. And it was the most beautiful office I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, probably. When the building opened, the mining recorder's office was called the most beautiful room in the territory. The entire interior is constructed from British Columbia fir, walls, floors, coffered ceilings, rendered all in wood. You can even tell, when you look at the neoclassical features of the exterior, what's really special and unique about this building is it uses a lot of techniques that are characteristic of masonry and stone buildings, but it's all made of lumber.
Yeah, and I saw them building it. And I thought, well, my goodness, when it was done, it looked like that, but I knew that they were building it from wood, right? Now,
mostly from imported. Also, really strangely for the Yukon, you'd think, all these trees around, they just cut some down to use for building, but a lot of the wood for this building and for a lot of government buildings came from British Columbia. The architect thought that the local lumber was unsuitable for the projects that he had in mind.
The trees weren't good enough.
Well, they weren't very big, I suppose,
I see.
and the lumber wasn't really well seasoned. So he was probably right.
Architect Thomas W. Fuller first traveled to Dawson City with the Northwest Mounted Police in 1899 and designed some of Dawson City's most important post-gold rush buildings, including the post office in 1900, the Territorial Courthouse in 1901, the public school in 1901, which burned in 1957, and the Commissioner's Residence, which was also constructed in 1901. Fuller designed many other important buildings in other parts of Canada and served as Chief Dominion Architect from 1927 to 1936. What happens inside here now? It's not mine claiming office.
No, for 60 years, the building has been the home of the Dawson City Museum.
60 years?
Yeah, actually, this year, 60 years. Yeah, 60 years this year, since 1962.
We'll go inside and look around, and I'll see if there's anything left from my time in there.
Oh, sure, probably.
Let's have a look.
Let's. So this room is what used to be the mining recorder's office. You can still see a lot of the 1901 architectural features. Today, it's the museum's landmark gallery, the North Gallery, 1,600 square feet, covering the history of the Klondike before the 20th century.
Well, it's real nice in here. It's I don't, of course, I remember the miners' claim office, and now I'm seeing just all kinds of these artifacts, and and I believe it might be a pair of my boots sitting over there that I left behind. Are those size 12?
I think they're 12 and a half.
12 and a half. Maybe they ain't mine. But if I do see something in these cases and I recognize it as something I left behind back in my time, can I have it back? No, I'm just
No, you probably shouldn't.
I'll leave it here.
Yeah,
People can look at it.
We need it here in 2021.
Just put my name on it. Say this here belonged to Tin Cup Kelly, and just a little bit about me.
Oh,
so that's all I ask.
No, that we can do that.
I like to be remembered. So,
of course.
Yeah. So Alex, tell us about this exhibit with the little tiny gold pans there.
Sure. So this is an exhibit of samples of placer gold, of tiny gold flakes and dust. And what I really like about it, actually, is how there are a couple of different places in Dawson you can see this, but when you see gold from different creeks, all laid out together like this, you can see the visual differences between them. You can see that one creek, yields, larger, flatter flakes, and other creeks yield like really pebbly kind of gold. And in the 1890s, some time ago, people who lived here and bartered and exchanged in gold dust knew to look for those differences. And they could even assess and would assess the purity of the gold based on which creek it came from, because it's partly the differences in purity that cause the gold to have these different shapes.
Yeah.
And there's a really great story about Lying George Carmack, right? When he came to 40 Mile, to announce his discovery of gold, so-called his discovery of gold on Rabbit Creek. No one believed Lying George Carmack until he produced his shotgun shell full of gold dust. And when he showed them the dust, they realized, the people in the saloon who knew all the gold from all the creeks saw that this was new gold. This was from some new strike, and they rushed for the door to upriver to the Klondike.
And so, and I got to be like that as well when I found my first gold up at 40 Mile. When I got up here, I was one of the lucky ones,
right?
And then found a bit of gold, in another location, and I saw it was different, and I got to know that. A lot of folks, those Chichacos didn't realize that.
The museum's second floor is a vibrant exhibit space with a preserved turn-of-the-century courtroom, a fun display about the Yukon and pop culture, and some other very rare and interesting objects from history.
So Alex, there's some of your favorite things in here. Is that right? You told me earlier you love these artifacts upstairs here.
No, I'm a big fan of what we have on the second floor, that's right.
Yeah, then people need to get up to the second floor and see some of these things right here. These, I say things, but boy, for me, Alex, I'll tell you that when I come into a museum, now I miss home a bit. I miss my time, but there's just wondrous things in this day as well that I've enjoyed. Can't say I'm too keen on those vehiculars,
right.
But I prefer a nice horse and wagon myself, or a good horse. But anyways, I love seeing things that remind me of my time. For example, that there big contraption in the middle, I remember getting lemon phosphate from that, or a Klondike Hot. Klondike Hot, I had a real interesting taste. What was in a Klondike Hot?
The Klondike Hot was a hot beverage made with beef extract, hot cream, clam juice, extract of spices, and celery salt.
I didn't remember all that was in it. I just remember it being you could just say an interesting taste. Have you ever had one?
No, I'm not brave enough.
Try one sometime.
Thank you.
And this, of course, is a plow. What's the story behind that one,
Alex?
So what's really neat about this plow is you can see that the front wheel is made from a cake pan.
Oh,
You know,
I see that
in
now.
the Yukon spirit of waste not, want not, there's a long history of using and reusing what you have.
That's right.
And so, when the cake pan gets a hole in the bottom and the plow needs a new wheel, you make hay.
That's right. Yeah. Even the way you talk reminds me of home, Alex. And boy, you hit the nail on the head because in this day you got folks that are, which is real good. They do all that recycling and get reuse things. But in my day, it was a necessity. You made do with what you had, and you just couldn't
Throw things away.
That's right. You didn't throw things away because you never knew what could come in handy, what could help you fix something or get the job done,
Yeah.
as it were. So that's cake pan. But Alex, what is that contraption on the other side? Don't quite recognize it.
Yeah, it's powered by gasoline, like an automobile, and it goes a lot faster than the hand cranked saws. Yeah,
And what's it called?
that's a chainsaw.
A chainsaw. Yeah. Oh well, and it'll cut things.
Mostly logs. It's a lumber industry kind of tool. Yeah. So chainsaws might be unfamiliar to you. This is a really early model, I think, from the 1930s. It's the chainsaw. You may know is a Canadian invention. As a matter of fact, yeah, the mass-produced chainsaw, is a Canadian invention. It's an adaptation. It's an adaptation from the old something you may be familiar with, the hand-cranked bone saw.
I remember a hand-cranked.
You may have seen this.
I remember a hand-cranked bone saw. So how about this is real pretty. Now I can't say I ever had anything this nice in my abodes, but
yeah, this is this lamp is it's attractive, right? Obviously, but what I like about it, what the museum really likes about it, is it was owned by a man named Joe Gatt, and Joe Gatt owned a hotel in South Dawson, and he was also the master brewer for the O'Brien Brewery in South Dawson.
In the upcoming part 2 of our visit with Alex at the Dawson City Museum, we'll learn more about the Klondike Brewery and hear about some of Tin Cup's friends from the past, including Tom O'Brien, George and Martha Black, and Robert Service. See you then, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of Tin Cup's traveling antics.
you're not a time traveler like me, right, Alex? You're from this time.
That's right. I'm not a time traveler like you.
I think we'll go inside, and there ain't no libations in there.
No, it's a dry museum.